Okay. Hi, y'all. I'm looking out on Iowa farmland at the moment, and it is super beautiful out here. Mm-hmm. It's so green. And then the roadways around here are gravel, and it's limestone. So that contrast of like red barns and green everywhere, and then these white roadways of limestone. It's really, really picturesque out here. Anyway, my name is Shane Brodie. I'm traveling around talking to trans, intersex, gender nonconforming, non-binary, etc. people, plus allies, plus people who feel they're adjacent to the community, parents, and even a couple minors, which is pretty cool. And today I have a guest, and she's going to introduce herself in whatever way you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, so I'm Sophia. I use she, her, and hers. I'm 33-year-old trans woman, queer, and I'm, as Shane mentioned, I'm out of Iowa here, Indianola, to be more specific.
Yeah.
I've been...
It is super beautiful out here.
Yeah.
It's like how you would imagine Iowa, too. Very flat.
Yep, Iowa is incredibly flat and a lot of farmland.
I noticed, too, that y'all have already... you already have hay bales that have been cut or whatever. I'm just amazed at that because I'm coming from a place with 9 months of winter. So all the greenery, I'm just like, wow. You know?
Yeah.
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 Did you grow up here?
Yes, I grew up here. I wasn't born here, but I did grow. I've spent pretty much my entire life here in Iowa.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I haven't moved very far. Basically, I lived in town for a while, and then we moved out here to the countryside, just a few miles north.
By town, do you mean Indianola or Des Moines?
Indianola.
Okay. And Des Moines isn't that far either. It's like half an hour?
Yeah, Des Moines is about a half hour away.
Is it Des Moines?
Des Moines.
Okay.
Yep.
I say Des Moines. Anyway, yeah, I say it wrong. So you grew up here. What is that like, being a trans woman out here in the farmland?
You know, for the most part, it's actually, I think a lot of people would think it'd be a lot worse than it actually is. But
people are very polite here, I noticed.
Yes. I think that's the key factor, is that people here are very polite. They tend to keep to their own business a lot. That doesn't mean...
Except for laws, maybe.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was getting at. Like, it's... A lot of the times people keep to their own business, like out in public and that sort of thing. It's not like we don't get harassed here or anything like that. It's not like...
When you say we, are you involved in trans groups?
Yeah. Yep. The trans community, and I do help facilitate a trans support group called Transformations Iowa.
Okay. Is that out of this community or closer to Des Moines?
Des Moines.
Okay.
Yep.
See, I said it right.
Yeah. But as far as the political climate goes, Des Moines sort of historically has been actually kind of purple. We've gone back and forth on blue and red a lot, but in the past, I would say 10 years or so, we have turned pretty red as far as politics go. Okay. And then this past year has been very, very rough. A lot of horrible laws introduced and passed, and all without much say from the community or without listening to people in the community, both trans and allies.
So has there been, when you say that, not a lot of listening, has there been a lot of testimonies against bills and that sort of thing, and then legislators just don't listen?
Yep. I've been to a few subcommittees myself and I wasn't able to speak at them to testify against them, but there were plenty of people who did testify against them. And legislatures just wouldn't listen. And then along with during the actual voting on the bills and that sort of thing itself, they wouldn't listen to debate on a lot of the bills.
Oh, so they went straight to a vote.
Yeah, they tried to go pretty much as straight to a vote as they could.
Did they call it like an emergency or something like that? I think they tried to do that in Kansas City.
They didn't do that this.
Yeah.
I don't think they did that this year. I don't think they called like an emergency vote or anything like that. They did a few years ago. Actually, they on a trans issue, basically, Iowa Medicaid was not covering trans surgeries. Iowa's Supreme Court said no, you can't do that, and then Iowa's legislature had like an emergency vote, and it introduced really quickly and passed very, very quickly another ban on Iowa Medicaid covering trans surgeries.
So it's kind of shifted back and forth whether Medicaid will cover it.
Yep, and actually just pretty recently, within the past couple of weeks or so, Iowa Supreme Court has yet again struck that down.
Okay, so it's now covered?
It is currently covered, yes.
Momentarily.
Yeah. One of the nice things about Iowa's political process is that as far as introducing bills go, they really only have until the end of March to do that.
Okay.
And Iowa's whole legislative process will probably be done sometime in June.
Okay.
And then we won't have any bills or anything being voted on or passed at that point in time. Things have gotten...
When does it start up again?
Beginning of the year.
Okay.
So
some states start earlier, like in November.
Yeah.
But that's just a basic kind of introduction to what they might be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's so as far as that goes, that helps slow down the process of taking away trans rights here in the state. But
especially for poor people.
Yeah.
Because that's often who is on Medicaid.
Yep.
Disabled and also poor people.
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, it's not just Medicaid. This year, they concentrated a lot on banning trans care for minors, which they did get that passed through, and they've also done things like ban speaking about being queer, LGBTQIA in schools.
Oh wow,
and that sort of thing.
So a speech ban.
Yep.
In schools. Wow.
Yeah.
Did they do like they did in other states where they removed books and that sort of thing? Or are they trying to do that?
I believe they have passed a bill basically stating that any book that has any sort of sexual reference whatsoever, excluding the Bible is the only one that gets an exception.
There's so much sex in the Bible.
Yep.
And some of it is very non-consensual as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I believe they did pass that as a book banning. And there have certainly been a concentration on wanting to ban books as well.
Yeah, yeah. And that affects really literally everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. So what is that like, I guess? You've grown up in this state that a lot of people thought of as purple and has kind of acted that way. And even kind of recently with the back and forth with the Medicaid. And then it's turning redder and redder. Why do you think that it's turning more socially conservative?
I'm not entirely certain why.
Yeah.
But it's gotten that way more and more, and I think the more frankly bigoted people have just felt more and more empowered.
Yeah.
And they've and a lot of I imagine you probably saw some, but driving out around the countryside, I see a lot of Trump supporters, Trump flags, or there's
signs up or stickers.
Yep, there's an old rusted out trailer that I passed by on my way to Des Moines and on my way back home that has a vote for Trump spray painted on it, which is like,
it's like a impromptu billboard or whatever.
Yep, yeah, and it's really disheartening to see that sort of thing. But
up in Fairbanks, there's billboards aren't allowed.
Okay.
And so somebody was driving a truck with like a trailer in the back with like a homemade billboard with Trump, whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, besides Trump too, I think another threat would be DeSantis.
Yes.
Right. Who just I believe announced his candidacy.
Yep. He just announced his candidacy on I think he used Twitter to do it.
Yes.
And
Twitter Spaces with Elon Musk.
Yeah, and it did, and there was a lot of technical issues, I believe.
Yes.
didn't pay that much attention to it, but yeah.
$44 billion
Yeah.
for a bunch of technical problems.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, it's too bad, that guy buying it, and then I feel like Twitter wasn't good to begin with, but it's really bad now.
Yep.
It's really bad now. So tell me about these trans groups that you're involved with.
Yeah, so I, for the past, since 2012, I think, I've helped facilitate Transformations Iowa, which is a trans support group. I do the Wednesday meetings, but there are various other meetings as well, and we've got a Discord as well.
Is there a dedicated space, or is this through a LGBT center? Or
It's we meet in the same building that the Des Moines Pride Center meets in.
Okay.
And so Des Moines Pride Center has offices in, and so we use like the boardroom space there. But it's gone through a few different places for. Actually, shortly after I took over, we were meeting at One Iowa's offices for a while.
Okay.
One Iowa's another LGBTQ charity group. They focus
Is that like a statewide kind of organization? Okay.
They are statewide. They concentrate mostly on I would say on the legislature.
So there's some lawyers involved, probably.
Yeah. But and they at least through we have a lobbyist now. I'm actually also on the board for One Iowa Action, which is the lobbyist side of One Iowa.
Wow, you sound really busy. Are you notorious, like, as a troublemaker? You seem very sweet.
I don't think I'm that well known. I was actually lucky enough a few years ago when Iowa did give me their Advocate of the Year award for all of my work.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
For all of my work on through transformations, especially, but just speaking out and doing various things. I would say my friend Keenan Crow, they're really known as the troublemaker.
Okay. Are you the quieter troublemaker or something?
Yeah.
I was wondering about the transformations. Is that, what kind of attendance do you get there? Like 20, 30 kind of people, or has it been going on for a long time? Like, what's the history of it?
Yeah. So Transformations has been going on since I've been able to track it back to at least 1999.
Okay. So a while. That's quite a while.
As I said before, I've been in charge of it since about 2012. I've been attending since 2011 or so. As far as attendance goes, before the pandemic, I would say it was around 6 to 8 people.
Okay.
Sometimes we would actually get up to as many as 20. Those would be those would be very busy days. But since the pandemic, actually attendance has dropped off quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
why do you think that is?
I'm not really certain. I think
because in some places it's actually spurred people to come together more.
Yeah. That's something that I've been wondering about myself. It's possible that there have just been other groups that people have been going to, or just because I think there are other transgender support groups in the area.
Okay.
But I think, I don't entirely know why. So, it's a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, maybe a survey would be helpful.
Yeah,
or something. Yeah, I know down in Houston, some of the activists down there are thinking about putting out surveys to figure out how to do better work. Basically,
yeah.
They're already doing good work, but how can we serve the community better? So. Did you, so just speaking about, attending this group, did you start socially transitioning around 2011, that kind of time period?
Yeah, I didn't know, basically, I didn't know I was a trans woman until I was 21, pretty much, just a few weeks before my 21st birthday. And then a few months later in the fall, I started attending Transformations, and I started volunteering at the Des Moines Pride Center a lot.
Okay.
So
you just jumped right in.
Yeah, it didn't take too long for me to start doing a lot of things, because even just, and then because that was 2011. And then in the winter of 2011, I got on hormones for the first time.
Okay.
I started hormones finally. So it didn't take me relatively that long.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming that was informed consent, that model.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I was seeing a therapist already for quite a while. And basically when I figured out that I was transgender, I told my therapist at the time. That therapist recommended me to a different therapist just because he didn't know a whole lot. And then I spoke with that therapist like once, maybe twice. And she was like, we're not really vibing and I don't necessarily know that much on trans stuff. How about this other therapist who doesn't know a whole lot of stuff? And so finally with her, I really connected.
Yeah.
And she really helped me come out a lot and helped me have a safe space to explore myself. And
Yeah. Well, I hope that those therapists that it's appropriate that they referred you to other people that they thought maybe had more experience. But I hope that afterwards that they pursued their own education in this subject since they were deficient in it. And there was obviously community need for it.
Yeah. I don't really know if they did or not, but I hope they did as well.
I hope you do. It's not all that specialized of care, actually. Trans people are going through kind of the same thing that everybody else is, except, we have maybe a couple different steps. But there's a lot of medical care out there that affects people's lives. I would hope that people would seek out their education and, people who are more knowledgeable, spread out that competency among your peers. Yeah. Speaking of that, what was your medical care like here in the center of the country?
The medical care here in Iowa has improved a vast amount. When
You had a big sigh there, though.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Don't want to get into it too much, but
Sure. Yeah. I encourage people to be as private or as public as they want to. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
But getting into it, at the time that I came out,
Yeah.
around 2011, there were about 2 doctors who did trans care.
Yeah.
In central Iowa, at least, possibly in Iowa in general. I don't entirely know.
So when you say that they did trans care, what kind of care?
Hormones is what I really mean. Okay.
Were they endocrinologists? Or...
They were both general practitioners.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But they did have knowledge. They were knowledgeable about hormones.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, both of them had outdated practices that, frankly, were bordering to the point of sometimes even crossing over the line of sexual assault.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So, unfortunately...
What do you mean by that? Like inappropriate touching, non-consent?
Inappropriate touching. There was a lot of inappropriate comments from one of them, especially. There was one incident that I don't want to get into because privacy for that person especially. But it was, from what they described to me, it was pretty bad. And,
I must say I've also had that experience.
Yeah.
Like people just reaching out and touching parts of my body without asking.
Yep.
And when I protested, they were like, well, you're a dude.
Yeah.
Just deal with it kind of thing. Or people smirking at my genitalia as they were giving me a test. It's pretty common actually. And unfortunately, trans people don't have a lot of recourse.
Yeah.
Because there's so much bigotry and because our options are so small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the options being limited, it's hard to tell people. It's hard to protest. It's hard to know also just like what is needed, what is not. Yeah, as well.
When I complained to my local community about basically being felt up, men in my community actually defended the doctor.
Yeah. Yep, that happened. That happened in my community as well.
Because they were worried that this doctor wouldn't treat them after that if somebody complained. That's awful.
Yeah, there are plenty of people who defended the doctor who assaulted me. I I didn't bring up anything about it, and I didn't hear about it from other people. The other doctor who did not assault me, but I did see, and also they were just sketchy and didn't like some of the things. He was well respected, and well known, and did much of the care, especially in central Iowa. And a lot of people, when I brought up that, hey, he's done these things, a lot of people defended him.
Right.
And you know, it's really unfortunate that they did that.
Right. Because then they just keep doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they do keep doing that, but I don't necessarily blame them, you know, because with...
Oh, I do.
Well,
Absolutely.
I don't necessarily blame the people who defended him just because...
Oh, I do.
Yeah, I know. But it's just because they're scared too, you know. They don't want to lose their care.
Sure.
And they don't necessarily know what this stuff looks like. And I really hated that they defended him, and I don't necessarily like them for that. But at the same time, my animosity is towards the doctor who did these things.
Sure. Yeah, but from my point of view, people who enable this by complaining about the victim
no, it's
equally as bad. You are part of this cycle of abuse, which is what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm quite passionate about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that happened to you, by the way, because it, like you're saying, there were limited options, even though Des Moines is a large city, right? It's there's large universities there. There's a medical school, it's fairly cosmopolitan. You'd think that you would have more options, but you don't.
At this point in time, we do actually have a lot more options.
But back then there wasn't.
Yeah. Back then there wasn't. At the time that a lot of these things came to light, about the only other option was about 2 hours away in Iowa City.
Okay. Which is the other part of the state.
Yes.
Like the other side, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Des Moines is centrally located, and then Iowa City is on the east side of Iowa.
Right.
And so a lot of people didn't want to go out that way. But it's vastly improved. We have a lot more doctors here now.
How did that improve? Usually that improves by people pushing for something to improve. Did you see people doing that kind of activism?
So I feel like actually the University of Iowa over in Iowa City starting up their LGBTQ clinic really helped push that envelope.
Okay. Was that probably instigated by students there? Like, we need this care?
I don't entirely know how it got started, but I believe it was started by Dr. Knisley and Dr. Mborek. Okay. Both who have both been great, and Mborek's been pretty amazing in speaking out for the trans community.
Great.
She's done a lot of advocacy and speaking out for the trans community, and obviously helping getting us the medical care that we need. Actually, I believe fairly recently, because of the LGBTQ clinic, University of Iowa also got doctors to do gender confirmation surgeries, such as bottom surgeries, such as vaginoplasties, and I think a few others. Yeah, I think they're doing phalloplasty, but I'm not certain if they're doing phalloplasty or not.
But a variety of
yes.
Things. Okay. Is that where one of the medical schools is here?
Yes.
Okay, great.
The University of Iowa is probably the main medical school here in Iowa.
Yeah. I know a lot of people come into Iowa to go to medical school.
Yeah.
The schooling here, all levels, is really, really pretty fantastic. At least that's what I've heard.
And again, the political climate, things are getting worse.
Is it? Oh, that's terrible to hear, because it used to be kind of like the standard.
Yes.
Iowa was the standard of education around the country.
Yeah, Iowa has a great history of education.
Yeah.
But
are they defunding it or something? Like they're up in Alaska?
Yep. Yes, actually, one of the things that they're doing is school vouchers.
Oh,
which is
no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So you've heard about this.
Yeah, well, what it does is it funnels public funds into private schools, and often religious schools.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty direct.
Yep. That is something that just got passed this year. And then, of course, we mentioned the book bans before. And so I mean, the education here is just seems like it's going to get worse. It's
Yeah.
going to get worse, and
Yeah.
which seems to be a goal of conservatives.
Yeah, yeah. Well, make everything as bad as possible, and then watch it collapse, right? And then privatize everything.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they're trying to do.
Yep.
They're definitely doing that up in Alaska too.
Yeah.
Cutting, tens of millions of dollars in a state that desperately needs more help in education. We need help in a lot of ways. Anyway, let's take a break for a second.
Yeah.
Anyway, we took a little break there. So I was thinking as we were talking that maybe we could talk a little bit about more your process in your life, because there's kind of this, it's a narrative or a trope, but it's also kind of the reality of most trans people that at least I've met, and non-binary people, etc., who they know about themselves. Oh, I see the kitties over there, the little tiny ones.
Yep. And you got some little kittens over there.
Yeah, there's a lot of little barn cats and feral cats around here. It's farmland. It's totally farmland out here. There's, people usually know pretty young, but for you, that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about being in your early 20s. And then were you in college at that time, I'm assuming?
Yeah. At the time, I was not. I had dropped out of college, but I was regularly visiting my ex-fiance.
Okay.
At their college.
At their college. Okay.
Yep.
And I'm thinking that there's probably like little colleges all over Iowa in if there's a decent sized town here.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yep.
Pretty extensive.
Yeah, we went to Central College in Pella.
Okay.
Which is small town about the size of Indianola, kind of known for it being Dutch Catholic, and then also it has a delicious bakery called Jarsma. So.
Oh, I think I should go there. Would it be a huge detour for me?
It's about 45 minutes away from Indianola.
Okay, I'm going towards Omaha after this.
Okay, that's the other way.
Okay. Oh, darn.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff. I used to be a baker, and I just really appreciate like fine pastry. And
yeah.
Even just country pastry too. But yeah, I just love all that. Especially if there's like a ethnic part, or like it's a family place. I love that. Yeah. Anyway, you got me thinking now. Now I'm totally off track. I'm thinking about pastries. See? Anyway, so you were kind of in college, but you kind of dropped out, and you're kind of visiting another college where your significant other is. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah.
Because usually there's, I like to think of it as when you have a partner and you're going through these processes, they're with you at that time. Mm. They're going through kind of a transition themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for realizing that I was transgender, yeah. There is that narrative of people realizing and knowing that they're trans, or that, they're a girl, their actual gender.
Mm-hmm. Or different.
Yeah. Or different. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very early on. To me, I didn't really know that. If I look back, I can go, oh, those were all indications, and
sure,
maybe should have known.
In hindsight.
Yeah, in hindsight. But I didn't really know that. So I was in my early 20s exploring kink with my ex-fiance. And I was dressing up in women's clothes, in their clothes, really.
Like cosplay, I think people call that, right? Costume play or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, this was more, since it was more along kink lines, it would be more forced feminization.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Usually that's about humiliation, though.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was, dressing up in women's clothing, and then part of my story that actually does align is that whenever I looked in the mirror as a kid, I just saw a person there.
Okay.
I didn't see myself, and I didn't really understand. Like in school, one of the worst assignments that I ever got in art, and I was not very good in art anyway. One of the worst assignments I felt like I ever got was that self-portrait, and you have to stare at yourself a lot. And
Oh yes. Did you just not look in the mirror much, or?
I looked in the mirror. I was kind of okay and
Okay.
fine with looking in the mirror, but there was definitely a disconnect between myself and who was in the mirror.
Okay.
But so anyway, so I was dressing
Interesting.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I was dressing up in women's clothing, and one day I put on the whole shebang, like a bra and everything, and I looked in the mirror, and I broke down crying because, holy shit, I realized that I was trans, that I was a woman, and because I saw myself for the very first time.
Wow. Did you feel that in your body? Like you felt really good?
Yeah. Okay. I felt amazing. I finally seeing myself in the mirror was incredible, and it was so emotional because there was a lot of fear there too.
Was your partner there with you, by the
My
way?
partner was not there with me, but I was in their dorm room.
Okay.
So they were going to be back before too long.
And those are very small spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah. And oftentimes there's like a lot of people kind of roaming about in the hallways and stuff. So it's not super private.
Yeah. But like I had met my first trans person at this college, and I had and that was sort of where I was introduced to the idea of being transgender and things like that.
Was this afterwards or before?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah. And so so I was at least aware of like struggles trans people go through and that sort of thing, and so there was a lot of emotion.
Was that kind of the first exposure for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's interesting. Yeah. I wonder if that has to do with kind of being in Iowa.
Yeah. Iowa it's not very diverse here.
Yeah.
I recently visited Minneapolis, and one of the things that like struck me very quickly was how much more diverse it is than Iowa.
Yeah. And they have huge immigrant populations there because they've welcomed them in.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Indianola especially is not that diverse.
Right.
Des Moines certainly is more so. And depending upon where you go in Iowa, there's various amounts, but especially as you get further out from the more urban areas.
Those cats are causing problems over there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But
yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of people of color out here. Yeah.
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 Yep. And so getting back to my story of transitioning and coming out, I realized there was a lot of emotion there because I was very, very happy, but I was also incredibly scared, knowing the sorts of things that trans people go through. But also, my fiance had, I had earlier, before this happened, I had been expressing myself in ways of like, I had been talking to them and being like, oh, are you okay if I like shave my legs or shave my body? And, the forced feminization stuff and that sort of thing. And pretty much every time their response was, yes, that's okay, as long as you aren't a girl. Yeah.
Your partner was saying that.
Yes, my partner was saying that.
All right. As long as you don't go too far.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, that's interesting because you're in this kind of kink cosplay kind of relationship in space.
Yep.
Which is usually about exploring kind of edges. And
yeah, I was probably pushing things a little bit too far for them, in all honesty.
Not for you, though.
Yeah. No, not for me.
Yeah.
But so I saw myself in the mirror and I burst out crying because I was so happy, but also because I was so scared. And like, I told them immediately. They were the first person I told.
Yeah.
And they, held me and said it was okay and that they still loved me and everything. And it was, it went really well and all. And so then I started talking to the therapist about it and started my transition. And
well, I could tell you're very emotional just even thinking about this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I got on hormones after not too long. I would say 9 months. I would say it took me about.
Just for my own kind of timeline, thinking about what's going on here, was this discussion of going too far? Was this before your realization or after?
It was before.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
So
it-
they may have had an inkling that I was trans before I did.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's sometimes the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you also mentioned knowing about what the trials and tribulations that trans people go through, the discrimination and stuff. Had you looked that up, like on the internet or something about that? How did you know about that?
The trans people that I had met talked to me about it a bit, and just sort of knowing about that sort of thing. And
Yes.
I had sort of seen things about that trans people went through online and that sort of thing. And because it's even 2011 people were talking about that sort of thing. And,
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
and, of course, much before that and everything too. But so my partner. My partner and I stayed together. My ex-fiance and I stayed together, obviously, for a while. And about a year after I realized that I was trans.
And you were already on hormones.
Yep, I was on hormones and that sort of thing. So I realized that I was trans about beginning of April, end of March 2011. And then December 2011, I got on hormones. January 2012, I started facilitating transformations. Yep. Yeah.
Thing after another.
Yep.
That's cool.
And then I would say about May 2012. Up to this point, my partner and I had been together, and
you were fiancés.
Yeah,
You were
yeah,
planning
we were
on getting
engaged.
married.
Yeah, and it was about a month before our wedding in May of 2012. I broke up with them because basically throughout that year of me transitioning and coming out, I could tell that they didn't love me as a woman. That they loved when I was a guy, that I was presenting as male, when I was a man. But when I was presenting as a woman, things like holding hands in public or kissing, even in private or anything, it was kind of like they didn't really want to at all.
So you're talking about kind of two things, though. The relationship with you and then what it looks like from the outside, like socially.
So they described themselves as bisexual. Even back then, they described themselves as bisexual, and actually now they are non-binary.
Okay.
But
I noticed you were using they.
Yep. Yep. But whether it was out in public, getting to hold hands as like both women at the time,
Okay.
or as a man and a woman at the time, versus even being in private, holding hands, cuddling, kissing, that sort of thing. It was very difficult if I was presenting as a woman to get them to interact with me in that way, to get them to interact with me in a romantic
In both
way.
situations.
Yes, in
whether
both situations,
private or public.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. So they really pulled back. That must have been really tough because, I mean, you're engaged. I mean, you're thinking about living your life with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very difficult, and for that year, like I honestly wouldn't have been able to transition without all of their help and support, because they were a great help and support to me in my transition, but they didn't love me as a woman.
Do you still have a relationship with them, like a friendship or?
Yeah, we're friendly to one another. We don't like running into each other that much or hang out or anything like that. We are Facebook friends, so I see their life updates and that sort of thing. But
the Facebook friend thing is so weird. It's so weird.
But
yeah. Okay. Wow. That's that's tough because, well, it sounds like amicable in a way because you still have good feelings about each other and you're still connected. I would not say the breakup was amicable. I would, because like I would say that it was very much my idea for the breakup. Okay.
I think they were very devastated by that, which is unfortunate.
But it sounds like it wasn't enough for you because they weren't connecting with you how you are,
Yep,
or how
exactly.
you're discovering
Yeah.
you are.
Yep. And
Yeah.
a big reason that I broke up with them like a month before a wedding, which is because one of the bigger things was that at that point in time, the only reason that I had not come out publicly completely was because they were worried about the wedding, and they were worried about their parents' reaction specifically.
Everything is planned too. I mean, I've never been in that kind of situation because I've always been kind of in queer community, and marriage wasn't a thing. Back then.
Yep.
Now it is, but it wasn't when I was coming out. So the marriage thing and having kids, like, that's kind of alien to me, frankly.
Yeah.
But
it is a bit to me as well, even if I've been engaged.
Yeah, it's like what I know of weddings is it takes a lot of planning.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people involved, and families as well as outside, like vendors and that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
were you going to have like a church wedding or a civil wedding?
It was going to be like a more traditional wedding.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so that's even more involved.
Yep.
Yeah. So what was that like, I guess, breaking that off? I mean, I would think that would be kind of a really big deal. Not just kind of a big deal, but a really big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was heartreaking, I think, for both of us.
But it's more than that. It's like the families and
Yeah.
It's
I'll be honest, I didn't have a whole lot to do with. I didn't do too much of the planning myself, and I didn't do too much of the ending of the wedding stuff.
Okay.
I guess the canceling of the wedding plans.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was really difficult because I'm not the type of person who really wants to get married or is interested in kids or that sort of thing, but I loved them a lot and I was willing to get married for them.
Yeah, right. I hear you. I'm more like anarchistic, so I can't.
Yeah.
Ever since I was a kid, I always wondered, why do we need like the government involved? Like, I was literally thinking that when I was a kid.
When I was a kid, I would see love triangles on any piece of media, and I'd just be like, I don't get it. You love both of them, date both of them,
That's
be
right.
with both of them.
Right. Why do we have to restrict love so narrowly?
Yeah. It's just something that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
There you go. So where are you at with that sort of thing now, like relationships and whatnot?
With relationships, I would call myself queer and polyamorous.
Okay.
I probably mostly lesbian, maybe bisexual lesbian, somewhere along those lines.
Sure. Have you ever identified like as a dyke or a bike? People, bi-dyke?
No, I haven't.
More lesbian?
Yeah, I haven't really used the term dyke for myself or bike.
Sure. How about lipstick lesbian? Or femme?
Femme will use sometimes, lipstick lesbian not so much. But
okay, yeah. Lipstick lesbian is kind of old school.
Yep.
Yeah, I love femme though. That one endures. That
Yeah.
one seems to endure, and it crosses gender lines as well.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of femmes. I met a trans man the other day who's femme, and then he does drag.
Yep.
Yep.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yep. So all kinds of variation out there. So you said queer and polyamorous.
Mm-hmm.
How would you define those terms for yourself?
So for polyamorous, I mean, I kind of just end up using a very basic definition of that. Like, I can date multiple people. My partner can date multiple people. We don't necessarily have to date the same people, but if we do, cool, neat.
Yeah.
If we don't, whatever. I'm sure there's a term for it, maybe like single polyamory or relationship anarchy or something like that.
Sure. Something more specific or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Some people just say poly too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I tend to use polyam over poly because I believe a lot of people in the Polynesian community, a lot of Polynesian people, maybe I should say, have been using poly to describe themselves for a long time.
Good point.
So
yeah, it's kind of like with non-binary. African American people are suggesting, instead of using NB, the letters NB, to use ENBY instead. Yeah.
Yep.
Because NB stands for non-black.
Yes. Yeah. I believe so.
Yeah. So that's good. That's good to accommodate that. Yeah. Now that we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there a poly community here in Iowa?
There absolutely is. Yeah. There's a Facebook group, Central Iowa Is it Central Iowa polyamory? I think there's something more to it. No, it's just Central Iowa polyamory is
Okay.
is the name of the Facebook
So
group.
just very direct.
Yep, and there's a group that gets together on some Friday at the Des Moines Pride Center
Okay.
for like polyamory game night. So
okay.
we play board games and that sort of
Board
thing.
games.
Yeah.
There seems to be like this undercurrent of, or this whole separate society of people who play board games.
Yep.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I keep encountering that. So that's cool. So it's not all about sex and, heavy relationships
Yeah.
or finding people. Can just be normal everyday. Oh, we're going to get together for board games or
Yeah.
coffee or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And then you also mentioned queer. Mm-hmm. What's that like here in Iowa? Queerness.
It's been tough to find a partner, but
Yeah. Is it more gay and lesbian and kind of separate? Not so much the queer space?
no, I would say because there are so few spaces that it's a lot of more just LGBTQIA spaces in general.
So the opposite. So
Yeah.
more getting together.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah, because like,
In the bad old days, it was very separate.
yeah. And I would say for a time, we did have bars that would be more described as gay bars or lesbian bars and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
a lot of those spaces have changed, or we've lost some of them just
Yeah.
because they went out of business.
Economics.
Yep.
People get sober.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
really, honestly. Also, politics change, the community changes. Yeah. Actually, when I was younger, I actually really did like some of the separation. Like if you were going to go to a gay men's bar, you kind of knew what was going to go on there,
Yeah.
And then if you went to a lesbian bar, well, there were different kinds of lesbian bars that you could maybe go to too. Now it's like, it's everybody's together, which is interesting. I haven't experienced it too much.
Yeah.
So when you go into a more LGBT bar, what's that like?
I don't tend to go in too much.
Okay.
Actually,
Okay.
so here in the Des Moines area, as far as queer LGBTQ bars go, queer
Yes.
bars, Blazing Saddle's the main one. It's been around
Okay.
for forever.
Blazing Saddles.
Yep,
Okay.
Blazing Saddles.
Is that like a men's leather bar or something? Or
I would say definitely at one point in time we would definitely be described more as the gay bar.
okay.
And actually, I believe the leather community holds their leather convention, leather events there.
Yeah. It sounds like it.
Yeah,
from that name.
absolutely. Yep. And then was the garden. The garden has gone through quite a change.
Okay.
I would say that years and years ago it would be described more as the lesbian bar.
Okay.
But it has changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
And at this point in time now it's more, it has drag shows, but it's more restaurant entertainment, I guess.
Okay, yes.
Kind of. I think I haven't actually been since they sort of rebranded and changed.
I've seen a lot of bars like that. They've gone from being drag bars to like a lot of straight people coming in, which is
Yeah.
fine. Straight people have money. They can go wherever they want. But when there's a lot of straight people that come in, suddenly it changes to where drag becomes more like a burlesque show.
Yeah.
That is entertaining of straight people rather than being in sort of in community kind of
Okay.
entertainment or an in community kind of communication about what's going on, because drag artists often talk about social issues as they're
Yeah.
doing their thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And Blazing Saddles also does have quite the drag community as well.
Okay, great.
So,
Well, these bars sounds like they're doing a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are. Blazing Saddles especially, I would say,
Yeah.
seems to do a lot for the community. And then I actually go to Blazing Saddles on Mondays occasionally to play Magic the Gathering.
Okay, there you go.
That's pretty much
You're
my
like-
only
you're like
bar
the-
experience.
You're like the super nerd.
Yeah, I'm definitely a pretty big nerd.
Okay,
My,
that's great.
yeah, especially when it comes to Magic the Gathering. I mentioned I was in Minneapolis recently.
Sure.
That was for a Magic the Gathering
Oh my
convention.
Goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, I know nothing about Magic except there's a lot of cards that people collect.
Yep.
Yeah, that's about it. I used to watch some guys up in Fairbanks in a library at the university, and they just had like stacks and stacks of them, and they were just talking about them for hours. And I was trying to write papers or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Anyway, so we also talked about kink.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's different names for that. There's also BDSM and leather. In my experience of it, I started out in that in the early 90s. It's kind of changed names, kind of like the trans community has. We've gone from transsexual to transgender and all kinds of different names. We went from leather to BDSM and now more kink and other names as well. What's that community like here in Iowa? I keep saying that because I am not used to the Midwest. I'm not used to this area, the Midwest. This is completely alien to me. So I'm more of a coastal person, especially West Coast. So you're introducing this to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are sort of separate leather and kink communities. I mean, there's a lot of crossover between the two.
Yes.
But they do have their own groups and that sort of thing. I can't remember what the leather group is called.
Okay.
At this time,
There's also some motorcycle groups too as well.
Yep, I don't know that aspect of things here in Iowa pretty much at all.
Yeah.
But as far as the kink and BDSM stuff goes, the main one here in central Iowa, at least, is Vortex. They do kink parties regularly, and then they kind of grew out of SIPEX, Central Iowa Power Exchange.
Okay.
And I don't know if SIPEX really does munches and that sort of thing anymore.
What is a munch?
Munch is, so unlike, like, say, a kink party in which people are actually getting together and doing about kink, a munch is more sort of where you learn about kink.
Okay.
Somebody might be presenting on how to do a specific topic, how to do a specific activity safely, and that sort of thing.
So this is not a party situation where people are engaging in activities around this. This is more like teaching or just socializing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I've heard also that munches are kind of more out in public as well, whereas maybe parties are more in private spaces.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say the munches have been out in public here.
Okay.
Because sometimes people do demonstrations.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
it isn't necessarily like a group of people engaging in them. We also have Central Iowa rope bite.
Okay.
Rope bite here in Iowa, which is specifically around rope.
Yes. Yeah. I have always wanted to do rope, but I want to find like a particular person to do it with to learn together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always been together with people who knew way more than I did.
Yeah, okay.
And it just didn't quite match. Yeah. Yeah. There's something really sensual about rope, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite a thing. Yeah. And sometimes rope can be separate from these communities that we're talking about as well. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Yeah, let's take a break again.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we took another little break. I just like to take a break every once in a while because I'm doing a lot of bending over because this is a boom mic and my voice is so soft. So I just wanted to mention that just in case you aren't familiar with the leather / BDSM / kink community, for the most part, just like out in public, in general, most of the participants are cisgendered and also straight. That's the vast majority, actually, of participants. In my experience over the last, 30-something years, actually, there's very few queer people. And then gay men have kind of their own tradition of it in leather and also motorcycle clubs and that sort of thing. It's sometimes hard for queer people to make connections in those spaces, though, because they are very dominantly straight or cisgendered. And I was wondering for you, because you kind of came out in that space, have you found a lot of acceptance there?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I've had really pretty much any issues attending kink parties or anything like that. engaging in these spaces.
Yeah.
They've been pretty open and accepting to me.
Yeah.
There haven't been too many other trans or queer folks there, or at least visibly trans and queer folks, that maybe
Yeah.
I should state, because I've certainly known plenty of people there who describe themselves as bisexual.
Yeah. Are there any specific events that cater to queer or trans people out here?
And as far as the kink community goes, no, I wouldn't say so. I mean, leather is very much involved within Pride and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm not very involved with the leather community. But so I can't really speak to that too much, but they're pretty much always out at Pride and everything. And a lot of
So
them.
you find just kind of a general acceptance for
Yeah.
who you are as a queer and trans person.
Yep.
Speaking of partners, though, are you able to engage with that in these kinds of spaces, or is it, more difficult, I guess, as a queer and trans person?
I mean, it just kind of depends upon the partner, how much they're interested in it. I had one of my last partners, she always wanted to go to like the events and that sort of thing. And so we,
they put on a lot of charity events too. There's
Yeah.
also public ones. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So especially we would go to kink parties pretty much every month.
Oh, great.
And that worked out well. We didn't usually engage in any activities there. We usually just sort of socialized.
Okay. Yeah.
But on occasion we would. And so.
Yeah. Well, mostly when I went to parties too, that's what I did. I just talked to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So here's a big jump. Here's a big segue. This is not a segue at all. But here we are in your beautiful house. And, I got to say, I'm here and I'm like, wow, this is so amazing. There's like artwork everywhere. There's like a full bar. There's, all these beautiful chairs and couches. And this is just the basement. This is the basement, and then upstairs is really beautiful, big kitchen and everything. And you're here with your family, your parents. And so I was wondering about your relationship with them. It seems really lovely.
Yeah, my parents are amazing.
They're so friendly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents are amazing. They've accepted me the whole time that I've been
Sweet.
that I've been out and been out to them. It's actually kind of funny. When I was coming out, we moved over to this house sort of while in the middle of my transition. I wasn't out to my parents yet, and I was very sad about leaving the house that I grew up in.
Okay.
And so my therapist recommended
Was that in town?
Yes, that was in town. And so my therapist recommended I leave a note to the house.
Oh, okay.
And so I did. I wrote a note to the house, left it in the house, signed it as my name, Sophia, rather than my name at the time. And my parents happened to find it.
Interesting.
Yep. And my mom mentioned, "Oh, so what's this?" And it's like, "Oh, just like a note my therapist suggested I leave to the house. You can just leave it there. It's fine, whatever." And we didn't really, and she was like, "Okay." And so we didn't really talk about it at all.
When was that?
That would have been between 2011 2012.
Okay. So right in the early part of your transition.
Yep,
Okay.
early part of my transition, because I fully came out like publicly and everything summer of 2012 or so.
Yeah.
And so it did that, and then we actually moved to a temporary house before this house was finished being built. But
So it's new.
yeah, it's not too old. And so I was regularly going to transformations at the time. I was regularly attending it, and
you were leading it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was also going to the Pride Center to volunteer regularly, and that was sort of my way of being able to be out publicly as myself, to dress as myself, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And also build community around yourself and have connections.
Absolutely. Yes.
I do that too. I volunteer a lot because I'm a little bit awkward socially. I'm not projecting that on you, but I am that way. So
I'm absolutely awkward socially.
Yeah, okay. And I'm shy, so it helps me to actually be doing something to help the community. And then I'm around other people who are also of that mindset of helping other people. And it just really helps me socially to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I do that a lot.
But so a few months pass, I'm going to these events regularly, and my parents ask me the question, oh, so what are these events that you're going? What is this group that you're going to?
Right.
Oh, well, it's an LGBTQ group. Oh, so how do you fit into that?
Okay.
Oh, well, I'm bisexual. Wait, what? My parents at the time apparently knew, they were leading questions very much knowing that I was trans without me having actually told them yet.
Okay.
But
So they
apparently,
already knew?
well, because of the note that I left, and I
Okay.
signed it as Sophia.
Okay. All right.
They figured it out probably at that point in time.
Sure.
But they hadn't known I was
That's-
bisexual yet, even though I had been out as bisexual for years at that point in time.
That's interesting. Have you ever talked to them about that? How they kind of gave you space around that?
I haven't really talked to them about
Okay.
it, but I very much appreciate that they gave me space
Yeah,
and
yeah,
gave me
yeah.
time to come out to them on
Yeah,
my own. But
yeah.
that conversation sort of went, okay, they basically know, and they've been very accepting this entire time. And so I did eventually come out to them with the help of my ex-fiance
Yeah.
at an Applebee's of all places.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yep.
I came out to my mom going down the freeway,
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. So yeah, it was my parents have been very open and accepting. I also have an older sister. She was one of the first people that I actually came out to.
Yeah.
And she's been amazing. At times my parents have maybe accidentally used my old name or what have you, but honestly, sometimes it seems nowadays they have more trouble. They more often accidentally call me by my sister's name.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is
Do you two
nice.
look alike?
It's hard for me to tell, but certainly a lot of people have told us that we look alike, and especially since I started transitioning, we've
Sure.
looked a lot more alike and that sort of thing.
How is that relationship? Because, a parent-child, that's one kind of relationship, right? But then sister to sister, going from brother to sister to sister to
Yeah.
sister, that's quite a shift.
Yeah, when we were kids, my sister and I did fight a lot, but basically my mother yelled at us one day and that stopped. Yep. But since becoming an adult and since transitioning, I
Yeah.
feel like my sister and I have gotten a lot closer.
Oh, good. Good. I was hoping for that.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like the way you're talking about her, it's close.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would absolutely say that I'm close with my sister, and again,
Does that feel gender affirming as well?
It
to
is.
have a sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's sweet.
to have a sister and be a sister, and like the way she talks about me and that sort of thing sometimes, and is protective of me. It's very nice.
Yes. Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Do you ever I didn't have this experience growing up, but help each other out with like girl stuff? I don't know. I don't know. Girl stuff.
Not so much.
Okay.
I don't really wear makeup or anything, so
Okay.
she hasn't like helped me out with that, and I
Sure.
didn't wear makeup before with that. But
Sure.
she's often offering to donate clothes or makeup to transformations or to
great.
there's a recent actually
Other
organization.
trans women in the
Yeah.
community.
So,
Okay.
and there's actually recently a organization that got started up called Common Love, which is about secondhand clothes specifically to go
Yes.
towards the LGBTQ community.
Yes.
So
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of organizations around the country about that. There's down in Arkansas, there was one started called the Transition Closet. That's now,
Okay.
It's now international, actually.
oh wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I love it though when there's local efforts like that.
Yeah,
Because, you only have so many resources here in Iowa, and it's really nice when you grow your own. You don't need other people.
Yep.
You can grow your own.
yeah. I'm the type of person, I think it's fine and good to be donating to like large international organizations
Yes.
and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think people should try and learn about the more local organizations
Yes.
far more and donate
Yeah.
and volunteer with them more
Right.
than anything else. I
Yeah.
think that's, I think that tends to be more effective.
Yeah, I agree. Also, too, just thinking about the economics of it, usually those big, organizations have a lot of overhead. Mm-hmm. Like they pay a lot of salaries.
Yep.
Yeah, and some of those salaries are really big, unfortunately. So it's nice when you keep it local and, keep some of that overhead down. And a lot of those donations actually make it to people that need the help.
Yep.
Yeah. Totally. All right. So anything else you would like to talk about? Any sort of advice for other Iowans, other queer, trans, or kink-oriented Iowans? Which is quite a thing to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think things are getting rough here in Iowa.
Yeah, they are. I know
they've
we
been
have
getting-
a lot
yes.
of levity here, but yeah, things are getting tough here.
They're getting rough. They're getting rough. They're getting more difficult. But if you're trans and in Iowa, I think the best thing to do is to find your community, to find other people, to find groups. It doesn't necessarily have to be Transformations Iowa, but of course, Transformations can be a great group to find.
Yeah. Create more groups.
Yeah. Creating groups locally and just finding other trans folks and and staying close knit with your community and your groups, and just and concentrating on trans joy, I think, because I think especially online we get a lot of sadness, we get a lot of hate, and even if it's reporting on that sort of thing, it wears you down a lot. But just hanging out around other trans folks, being around other trans joy is transformative, frankly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and like you're saying, we're kind of bombarded with this every day. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important too to take a break from that stuff. You don't need to know everything that's going on up to the minute. Really, you don't. It's almost like we have a little bit of addiction, and some of that I think is fueled by fear. Yeah. It's a healthy fear, but it's also good to kind of step back and, like you're saying, find the joy that's around you, connect with other people. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
I think there's one other thing I'd like to say, especially in relation to people who are just starting to come out as trans. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, when you're starting to come out as trans, you've hopefully figured out at least a part of yourself, or at least sort of have an idea of who you are. Mm-hmm. And just making certain that you're transitioning, that your decisions in your transition are for yourself and not for cis people. I think we can get caught up in that a lot and very easily.
Are you talking about the pressure to pass?
Yes.
Okay.
Passing especially, I think. Because, there's that huge pressure to pass, and there's a certain safety in it. I don't think I can deny that, especially people generally consider me to pass. Yeah. And, so maybe I'm speaking from a place of privilege. But I think if you're concentrating more on what you want to look like, how you want to present, how you want to be, you're going to be far happier than if you try and concentrate on how you think other people think you should look, on how you think you're supposed to look. Yeah. Because that's just sort of going in the closet yet again, just in a slightly different way.
And also there's such a wide variety of women and men out in the world, and non-binary people. Let's not forget about them.
Yeah.
I love non-binary people.
Oh, yeah.
I noticed, too, you have the trans flag in your hair there.
That's the second time somebody has commented that it's the trans flag. Yeah. And, it started off as purple and blue. Okay. So more bisexual flag.
Sure.
But,
okay.
It wasn't
any darker colors.
Yeah, it wasn't any sort of flag in all honesty. It was just, I like purple, I like blue. Let's have purple and blue hair.
I like it. That's great.
Yep.
You're flying your flag every day.
Yep.
That's cool. There is something to being stealth. I'm glad that you brought that up. Also, the privilege aspect, that's something to definitely consider. And also that some people, are just always going to be in between. And that's the place that feels comfortable for them. Yeah. So we need to create space and, as much safety as possible and consideration and bring those people into community, keep them close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a little bit tired today.
That's okay.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of traveling. So far, this is my 13th, lucky 13
Ooh.
interview.
Awesome.
On this leg of my journey, the kind of Midwest and Western journey here. And yeah, I've just been doing those in a little over a week. So, woo, I'm pretty tired. Yeah, thank you so much for meeting with me.
Thank you.
And I gotta say, it is so nice out here. I'm pumped up by this interview, but I'm also just like, this is such a lovely place. I'm quite envious of you that you are living out here. I would just, I would love to, have some sort of like Buddhist retreat or out here or something, meditate out in the little windbreaks.
It's a pretty calm place.
Yeah.
Which is very nice.
Like it. And my dog loves it. The tall grass out here. He was loving it. Speaking of that, he probably should be let loose. Thank you so much for meeting with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear about, people creating community and doing activism out here, and your own work doing activism in a place that, has become so red and so crass so quickly. Mm-hmm. It's so nice to hear that you are pushing back on this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We do what we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's all you can do, All right. Thank you. Thank y'all. See you later. See you next down the road. All right.